are now reconvening into open session following closed session, and it is 7:07. Can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Bick?
Here.
Ms. Culver? Here. Ms. Meyer?
Here.
Ms. Hyman? Ms. Lowby?
Here.
Mr. Fishbane?
Here.
Ms. Golowski?
Here. And could everyone else at the table, seat at the table, please identify themselves. We can start down there with Mr. Fuhr.
John Fuhr, Director of Operations.
Tiffany Chavez, Director of Student Support Services.
Debbie Finn, Principal, Highland Park High School.
Ali Mahanti, Assistant Superintendent of Finance.
Elizabeth Robertson, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment.
Tom Krieger, Human Resources Director.
Catherine Anderson, Principal at Deerfield High School.
Christine Gonzalez, Director of Communications and Instructional Technology.
Ben Martindale, Interim Superintendent.
Romina Isaac, Executive Secretary.
Okay. And I would like to have a meeting to approve the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda, sorry. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Welcome everyone tonight. I would like to, before we actually get into our agenda, if we could just have a brief moment of silence to show our respect for the family and our community that experienced a very terrible tragedy over the weekend. So just take a moment. Okay. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Martindale to speak about it, but I want to say before I do that that I've never been more proud just even to live in our community. The way that everybody here and our staff and our administrators handled this situation is just beyond commendable, and I'm so grateful. I know we're all so grateful, especially to Kathy Anderson and everyone else who really helped get us, address this really difficult situation, and definitely to Dr. Martindale, Dr. Yankee, so I'm going to let him say a few words.
And I would like to echo what Lizzie said. I was over at Deerfield this morning for a couple of hours, meeting with Kathy and the aunt and uncle. And it's really been a tragic experience. But the job that Kathy did over the weekend and today is really commendable. I've been doing this a long time, and I've never seen anybody handle the situation as she did. And so I would like to congratulate her on that job. It's a very difficult situation, but she really stood out. So thank you, Kathy.
Thank you. Okay. We are now going to move to citizens' comments. We welcome your comments and questions and give them serious consideration pursuant to Board of Education Policy 2-230. Please identify yourself and, if applicable, state the agenda item to which your comment is directed. Please limit the length of all comments to no more than 3 minutes per comment period. We will do our best to address your questions during the relevant agenda item discussion. For non-agenda related questions or for questions that require additional response time, we will follow up with you as well as report back at the next board meeting. I do have my sign-in sheet here. Nobody has listed that they would like to speak, so I will just generally ask if we have any citizens' comments.
I didn't realize I wanted to speak until I sat down. I'm Hazel Herzog, former teacher at Highland Park High School. I would just like to tell you that I have received so many nice remarks from people in the community about how things have improved at both high schools. And I'm really so proud of you for following through with what needed to be done and getting things on the way back to the way I like to see them. The only other thing I want to say is in this superintendent's search, I'm concerned if you rely on a search firm. My personal opinion is something went wrong the last time. And I really feel it's important to really go into the community where the possible candidates come from, talk to people. And I don't know whether we used to do it. We used to go in and just talk to people. If we knew someone in the community, we'd call them. and really get to know those people's views and not just rely on school search firm. I hope that you can do that. But again, congratulations on what you're doing.
Do we have any other citizens' comments? Okay. Seeing as there are none, we will now move to our reports. We first will have our teacher representatives from Highland Park High School and Deerfield High School. Whichever one of you would like to go first, I'll leave it up to you.
Hi, I'm Amber Rizwan. I'm the new board rep from Highland Park. So reports from Highland Park. 2 of our former AP Computer Science principal students are now 10th District STEM Scholars. Kevin Beck and Isabella Wilson will have participated in their first activity with Congressman Brad Snyder this past weekend. Last week, Mike Arcuri held a professional roundtable event for each of his 3 incubator honors classes on the block days, in which multiple entrepreneurs came in to host idea vetting sessions with students in groups of about 8. Every student pair had an opportunity to pitch an initial product or service idea. They had to get professional feedback on it as well from their peers. The students absolutely loved it, as a positive and constructive feedback is what helps them refine their ideas, change them completely, and learn next steps. 35 senior astronomy students attended our first evening star party of the year. They were able to see Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn with our 10-inch telescopes. A clear, dark, moonless sky allowed them to see a few shooting stars and several constellations, zodiacs, and asterisms with the naked eye. Students were amazed to see the rings of Saturn with clear resolution and Jupiter with 3 visible moons. Many were excited to witness a shooting star for the first time. We would like to extend our collective thanks to the PTO for continuing to provide grants that help support the astronomy program. The World Language Department had 65 applicants for the Seal of Biliteracy for the fall session. Students are seeking the seal or commendation towards biliteracy in French, Hebrew, Polish, Russian, and Russian and Spanish. I'm really tired. French program had a very successful trip to Canada this past summer. 12 students from the French program interacted with locals, saw the city of Montreal, and discovered its multicultural wealth and beautiful architecture. In Quebec, students got a glimpse of the first European settlements in North America and explored the national treasure, the maple syrup producing sugar shacks. HPHS participated in our Lake County Attendance Week and have placed in the top 10 among Lake County schools with a 96.1 attendance rate. This marks the highest rate of attendance in our 4-year history of participation. The final results of our placement in the top 10 will be announced on September 28th. The PE department's new athletic performance class, taught by Dan Dillon, has been highly successful. There are 33 students in the class, a class that is meant for athletes in the school to use their PE time during the day to benefit their sport. During class, they do their in-season weightlifting if they're currently in a sport. Dan also acts as their personal trainer to create workouts with exercises specifically designed to help strengthen the skills needed for their specific sport. Workouts include not only strength training, but flexibility, mobility, agility, and explosiveness in their training. Lastly, the dual language program is excited about its first dual language leadership and team building retreat at Heller Nature Center next week on Friday. We have the opportunity to help students develop their leadership skills and use them to share their unique voice at school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi all, this is the report from Deerfield. Ryan Least, department chair from English, shared that Buffy Salee, Sarah Toplinsky, and Kristen Jiggets will be leading a workshop at the Illinois Association for English Teachers at the National Council for Teaching English this fall. Amisha Shah, Kelly Walanga, and Dan Chamberlain all went on the Soaring Valor trip. We've talked about it at a couple of board meetings. They said that the Soaring Valor trip was amazing. It was a great opportunity to hear stories from World War II veterans about the war and their lives outside of the war. It was wonderful to see students connect with the veterans, and the veterans are obviously living history. Mark Pector shared that they piloted their new weights and conditioning curriculum last year, and it's off to a great start this year. There's been a unified approach where most coaches and PE teachers agreed to the lifts and progressions that they're doing in the weights and conditioning class. This should take place at the lifting and practice for the athletes that take weights and conditioning in PE class, and most sections of the class are filled to capacity. Ryan Rakaitis shared that in August he was invited to the American Council of Teaching Foreign Languages, headquartered in Alexandria, Virginia, to work on rater reliability and norming the Apple assessment, which is the assessment of performance towards proficiency in languages. As the quality assurance lead for the Spanish version of Apple, Ryan met with other leaders from 12 other languages and administered to ensure consistent ratings across languages. Apple is commonly used to assess students' language proficiency for their seal of biliteracy across the U.S. and internationally. Over the summer, Ryan conducted 4 oral proficiency interview workshops on behalf of ACTFL for dual languages teachers in the Los Angeles Unified School District, at the City University of Seattle, and for the Illinois Council on Teaching Foreign Languages, and a private school in Flint, Michigan as well. Ryan also served as a rater for the AP Spanish Language and Culture exam this summer. In July, Ryan Rakitis and Mercedes Koch presented the 100th anniversary conference of the American Association of Teachers of Spanish and Portuguese in Salamanca, Spain. Their session, Exploring the Deep Sea, Culture Beyond Food, Flags, and Fiestas, shared practical strategies through which teachers can engage students in deeper conversations about students' culture and the cultures of the languages that they study. Lisa Allen in Social Studies shared that the DHS political science classes wrote and discussed the merits of compulsory voting, and there was many arguments on both sides. Amy Bricker shared that Deerfield High School has made the transition from Naviance to Maya Learning, a career and college readiness platform. Maya has similar functionality of Naviance and many additional features, making the program one of the best offered. College counselors Kristen Doctor and Kim Wiley have been working hard, hand in hand with the co-founder and CEO of Maya Learning, Satish Mirla, during the transition and launch of the program to our students and families. Deerfield is the first school to fully implement the Maya Learning 3.0 interface in the world, literally. With the relationship we have built with Maya, we've been able to make suggestions and adjustments to the features and functionality of the program, which will benefit all users of the program around the world. DHS seniors are already using the program to do college searches, keep track of their college lists, sign up for their college representative visits. In addition, they will soon utilize scholarship resources as well. Mercedes Koch shared that Nikki Schroeder and herself are presenting a session called Staying Alive in Spanish 5 at the ICTFL next month. ICTFL is the state organization for language teachers. Dan Brame shared that DHS music students performed at the Deerfield Farmers Market on September 15th. The Chamber Orchestra, Choraliers, and Jazz Band entertained the crowd with everything from fiddle tunes to classic jazz and Stevie Wonder. This marks their second annual performance at the market. On September 20th, DHS music students presented the 21st annual Potpourri concert featuring 2 bands, 2 orchestras, and 4 choirs. Over 200 musicians joined together for a final performance of the Illinois State Song in honor of their bicentennial this year. Mark Pector shared that Flo Mitron has always done a terrific job of teaching and wearing many hats in the school. This year, he took on the integrated PE program and has already done wonders. In this short period of time since school has started, Flo has transformed our integrated wellness class into a wonderful interactive program. He finds various ways to get peers working hands-on with our students, adapts material to each child's needs, and has built a positive rapport with all members of the class. The class is truly a wonderful example of collaborative, hands-on learning opportunities. His knowledge of rehabilitation, overall health, wellness, and coaching skills are some of the wonderful attributes that he brings to the class. The students in the class are renewed, re-energized, and motivated to work with all the students at DHS. And Mark Pector thanks Flo for his performance in that class. Dan Kim, Ryan Crane, Nikki Lazaretto, Howard Citron, Kimberly Marges, Dee Bolos Hartman, Molly Kaplan, Joe Taylor, and Derek Tiveron, and Jennifer Bowler and Hunter Young attended a Fuse studio training at Northwestern and learned more about the Fuse program to become Fuse facilitators. It's been a great experience, and they're looking forward to bringing the program to our students. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Vora. We will now move on to our superintendent report. I will turn it over to Dr. Martindale.
Okay. We had a light month, and we only have 2 FOIAs this time. On September 14th, we received a request from Jonah Meadows of the Highland Park Patch regarding FOIA requests, responses, and responsive documents from July 12th, 2018 to the present. We responded back to her on September 18th. On September 18th, we received 2 requests from Deborah Ray. The first request was for substitute teacher vacancy postings and applicants. The second was for materials relating to the removal of an individual substitute teacher. We are currently gathering the responsive materials and will respond back to her in a timely fashion. That's all I have at this time.
Okay. Okay, so we are now going to move on to our approval of our minutes. It is recommended that the minutes be approved as listed. Regular meeting, September 11th, 2018. Closed session meeting 1, September 11th, 2018. And closed session meeting 2 on September 11th, 2018. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion about the minutes? Nope. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes. So we're going to now move to our discussion items. And the first item we have is our discussing amending the board meeting calendar. I just want to, this came up in, we had a board governance session recently on September 15th. And I also forgot to mention that I wanted to say to our whole board and to our superintendents that that it was a great meeting, and I just appreciated everybody's time and effort and collaborative nature of the entire meeting. It was great, and will be fruits of that meeting will continue to roll out. The first one being there was a memo. I hope you all had a chance to read the memo regarding why we're proposing this calendar change. It did come up in our self-evaluation, and actually it was the IASB representative who, kind of started the conversation about it, asked us about it, and that's where it led. So would anybody, Michelle, do you have anything you'd like to say about the calendar?
So you're speaking of going down to one meeting a month?
One regular meeting per month, which would be more of like an action meeting, and then adding in additional meetings for, the proposal is.
Right. Okay, I just didn't know if everyone understood exactly.
Yes,
what the
it's,
proposal was.
yes,
Okay.
it's to go down to one meeting per month, but then have additional quarterly meetings that would probably incorporate a lot of the, some of the presentations and things that occur currently at our meetings that are twice a month in a quarterly fashion in support of the strategic plan.
Yeah, I am very much in favor of the change. I think it's a great idea. Some of the points that came up when we discussed it were, the 2 meetings a month, we could very easily cover those items in 1 meeting a month, and it takes a little bit off the table of our administrators who have to prepare a lot for each meeting. So it would hopefully take a little bit of the burden off them, as well as a very long day for all of everyone that's from this part on in the table. It's a long day for you, so I think it's great, and then it gives us the opportunity to maybe do, I don't know exactly what we were calling them, but sort of like workshops or retreats where we can meet with department chairs or to have other things that are, I think, very beneficial for the board to hear, presentations that we're able to see, and we're able to fit those in easier if we do more of one actual business meeting a month. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
And those would be open meetings,
Right, yes.
the workshop meeting.
Gail, do you have any comments, discussion?
I ditto what Michelle had to say. And just to kind of point out that the IASB rep who was here said of the 120 districts in her region, only one had twice a month meetings. So it's not, just to point out that we're not doing something that goes against the norm.
Yeah, I think it was like 1/3 of
Yeah.
the entire state
Right.
does
I think it was
2 a
less,
month.
I think it was like
Right.
1/5 or 1/4.
Well, and I know other people have come say, I know that Dr. Marndale, Dr. Yonke brought this to you brought it to the administrator meeting to
Yeah.
discuss that with them. So I don't know if you want to.
Well, they thought you should continue with 2 meetings.
Oh.
No.
They wanted
That's a
more.
surprise.
3 meetings, right.
Yeah.
Every week,
Right.
No, they were very excited about going down to 1 meeting a
This
month.
month.
And I think it's a good move on the part of the board. And I know the meetings that we've had so far this year have been very concise and very focused, and this will go along as part of that. So I applaud you for discussing it and hopefully taking action at the October meeting to enact this.
Stacy?
Disney knows I have questions. First of all, I agree. I think it's a great idea. We had talked a couple of times about potential agenda topics, and I love the idea of the quarterly meetings being kind of aligning with beliefs of the strategic plan, which is what the superintendents have recommended. And because I think that will do wonders for us to determine how we're measuring district progress, which I think could be improved from what we've been doing. I did have a few questions or comments based on the proposal. So one is just a comment that we recently changed the policy committee meetings to align with the board meetings. So it's just the policy committee will then have to go back probably and rethink when they want to do those meetings because they'll no longer align. My couple of questions are, if the board does agree on a presentation topic that is not currently what you're recommending or what we're going to plan, how will we determine how we're going to do that? So is that a discussion item, and then the president and the superintendents will determine if we're going to have another workshop date or add it to a workshop or do it as part of a board meeting or that sort of thing? And I don't know if you've had any thoughts about that or how it was done in your other districts, since I know that you and Dr. Yankee also come from one side.
Well, we could certainly have some of that occur at these regular board meetings. For example, I think in November we have the Schuler Scholar Program coming to the board to give a summary of their program. But we could, or you could schedule additional quote-unquote workshop meetings.
So it is just something, so it's kind of, we'll see how it goes, but
Yeah.
it is something, it's not to say that we can't add things that we might want to have presented, which
No.
I guess is.
Of course
Not at all.
not. No, of
No.
course not.
And then in terms of the workshop planning, were you thinking, so there was a proposal or draft about going, kind of doing each workshop to reflect one of the core beliefs from the strategic plan. Will then the details of that be worked out, superintendents and presidents, superintendents, administrators, I don't know if
I
you've
would
given
say
any
all of
thought
the
to that.
above.
Okay. And then I just wanted to say that I love the addition, there were some details they had put in terms of items that may be included and drafts, and I loved the addition of recognizing those who've made significant contributions to the district, and that they are recommending something specific about a time to look at administrator contracts, which I know is something that has been a little controversial over the past couple of years. So thank you for adding things that we haven't had on our
Maybe
calendar
just a
that I
little
think made a lot of
structured.
sense.
I don't know about
Yeah.
controversial. Let me just less
Maybe
structured.
Thank you, yes.
Okay.
In terms of the process, not the contracts, the process. Right, sorry, just want to be clear.
Good clarification.
Yes.
Did you get that, Romina?
I also welcome the suggestion to reduce the number of board meetings, and by the same token, to not neglect any of the other important informational things that we benefit from in terms of the workshops. And especially, the opportunity to work closer with the administrators and learn from them on what has been successful, what they would like to work on more. Those are all things that not only we're enriched by, but extends also to the community as an opportunity for all of us to learn about the great things that are happening in the district.
Yeah, we are all in agreement. I think, I agree with what everybody said. I think we could actually flip it and say it's really, the headline isn't really we're reducing a meeting, we're actually adding value. It's a better value of our resources, it's a better value of our time. We're going to have extra time as we go through the superintendent search. Lots of things, gives us flexibility, gives us tools. It's just a smart way to do this. So I think it's a great idea.
Okay. And actually, I'm going to say to Stacy, there was, as we started discussing about adding things to the agendas and blah, 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 our process has been, we have certain things that are always on the agenda at certain times of the year or whatever, and then things, but a lot of the things that you suggested actually it seemed like you can categorize those again under the different core beliefs of the strategic plan, and so why not, for even everyone's sake, just to be able to encapsulate everything to kind of, keep it more organized. So thank you for all of your suggestions. And there will still be, as there is tonight, we will put on the agenda, any future agenda items that will be that's an addition onto our agenda, so that at the end of every meeting, if there's a topic that hasn't been discussed that one of the board members would like to add to the agenda, we can all decide whether or not it's something that we want on an agenda. It doesn't mean that, again, that we're limited to just what's pre-selected in the different monthly meetings and the workshops. So, yeah, okay. Great. All right, well, I guess that is the only discussion item that we actually had. So we are going to move on to action items. The first one is Board of Education policies. We've got 3 policies up for action, and it is, all right. It's recommended that the board adopt the policies 2-105, ethics and gift ban, 2-150, committees, and 6-300. I'm going to say as amended in between the time that the agenda was posted and today. Stacy actually noticed a couple of typos in the to the policies, which have now been corrected. Yes, they've not been corrected. They will be. Oh no, I didn't. I'm sorry. I thought that you. Okay, they are going to. There are just some typos. So we are actually recommending. It is recommended the board adopt these policies not as presented but as amended, based on Stacy Meyer's discovery of typos.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Nope. Okay. Seeing there's no discussion, can I get a roll call, please?
Ms. Culver?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Lowby?
Aye.
Mr. Fishbane?
Aye.
Ms. Beck?
Aye.
Ms. Garlowski?
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, so we are now going to move on to the Building Grounds, Maintenance, Mechanics, and Security Group salary and benefits package. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the Building Grounds, Maintenance, Mechanics, and Security Group salary and benefits package as presented. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank Mr. Krieger for all his hard work on the process, or Mr. Mahanti?
Yes, thank you to everybody. It was for all the hard work that went into it. And okay, seeing as there's no further discussion, a roll call, please.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Lowby?
Aye.
Mr. Fishbane?
Aye.
Ms. Beck?
Aye.
Ms. Culver?
Aye.
Ms. Garlowski?
Aye, motion passes. Okay, so we're now going to move on to our approval of search firm. Prior to, in our meeting, we started our meeting with interviews of the search firms. The board had an opportunity to interview 3 different firms, and we discussed and asked them questions, and then we did have some discussion. I think about 30 minutes or so of discussion. I think following the interviews and the questions. So we started out with research with 3 firms, and then the board did come to consensus about eliminating our choices to down to 2. I think that we are gonna actually have to have a little bit more discussion, to sort of see where everyone stands. I should have probably put this back in the discussion items, but I think before we make a recommendation to vote for any one, we should have some follow-up discussion. So I'm going to start with Mr. Fishbane.
It's not really fair.
Okay. So as we said before, I'm very supportive of using a search firm. I didn't participate in the interviews with the companies, but I did participate in the discussion. I think the choice we make will be fine. They're all very talented firms.
Okay. That's great. Thank you. Do you have any further discussion from our earlier discussion, Elena?
No, I think it's going to be a difficult decision because we have 2 very, very well-qualified local firms that know us well. So I'm eager to see what the next step will be to actually make the decision.
Right.
Okay, Stacy?
Okay, so I'll say more. One, I just want to kind of reiterate some of the questions or things we looked at. So who we thought kind of do the heavy lifting more to help the district in terms of running the process and do the responsible process. We did a discussion about which firms we thought know our community better now and are what we're looking for in the district better now, as well as who could learn us more over the next few months as they're working with us. They did have a lot of similarities in terms of vetting processes and involving the community in terms of stakeholder groups and that sort of stuff. There is one that I thought we had consensus to moving forward with, but maybe we're going to have more discussion, which was Exec Connect, who had talked about utilizing Ben and Linda in some capacity in the process, and we had a large discussion about whether or not we perceive that as a conflict of interest, or I think Ken spoke of it nicely as he talked about something disclosing interest as opposed to a conflict of interest. And they had no influence in terms of the choice of the firm, so Linda recused herself and Ben did not speak at that, so that was just our the board talking about. But again, I do think I feel good about going forward with them, knowing the things that are really imperative to getting it right this time. We did also discuss that our last search was not as successful as we would like, and so trying to make sure that we don't repeat that process.
Okay, thank you. Michelle?
Yeah, I agree with everything that Stacy said. I mean, just to be clear, as on the agenda, we interviewed School Exec Connect, BWP, and HYA. And after the interviews, I think we all were in agreement that we would not move forward with BWP. So then it was kind of between HYA and School Exec Connect. And much to the same sentiment Stacy had, they definitely gave the feeling of they are doing the heavy lifting and they are helping us with the process. And they also emphasized the stakeholder committee. They're putting the stakeholder committee together to do interviews. They do all have a similar process. They reach out to the stakeholders. They do online surveys. They have focus groups. So they do all have a very similar process, but it did feel like that they might be a little more instrumental in the actual going through the process. And some of the other search firms we've used, maybe we felt like we were kind of driving the bus and they were just not as helpful. Not as helpful is not really the way to say it, but yeah, so I thought School Exec Connect I am more in favor of School Exec Connect out of that one and HYA.
Okay. Kale?
As people have said, I think that they all had very similar processes that they would go through. They all were qualified firms. I really don't have a clear favorite right now, but two of the three firms we have a history with, and School Exec Connect we don't, which seems to be a very big plus right now. I do want to emphasize that we had a very thorough discussion about the conflict of interest and coming to the conclusion that it wasn't, because we're disclosing relationships with the firm, and we have a policy that staff, administrators are allowed to do consulting work, and I think those were the two major points from that. What else? I know, and I strongly think that we do need to use a search firm. There's so much work that goes into it, and there's a real need to take this search, way beyond the local area, so that we can have the whole country as our recruiting grounds, and it's probably more than we could handle on our own.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, I'll just sort of add and echo what a lot of everyone else was saying, that, as far as School Exec Connect, I think that they really had, it seemed like they had kind of more of a local approach, and have a lot of, they all had contacts in the community, I'm sure, and I think it's probably a smaller community than any of us certainly really realize or understand. But that being said, you know, the associate who was here, you know, he let us know that, you know, his own children have attended Stevenson, and he's been a superintendent here locally. So I feel like that, in addition to having help with Linda and Ben, it feels like that would be like a, you know, a great start and step ahead to having, being able to find someone who can fit within our community. And like we discussed earlier, we all know how important the culture and the climate is to our staff and our community and our administrators. And I think that the firm that seemed to stand out to me as understanding that the most, including being able to network within the community and you know, seek out applicants maybe who don't apply and things like that. They seem to rise above that. So that being said, I'm going to recommend that the board approve that we hire School Exec Connect to conduct the superintendent search process. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? Okay. Seeing as there is no further discussion, can we get again a roll call, please?
Ms. Lobby?
Aye.
Mr. Fishbane?
Abstain.
Ms. Bick?
Aye.
Ms. Culver?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Orlovsky?
Aye. Motion passes. Okay. It is now recommended that the consent agenda be approved as listed. Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and Michelle will report on the bills.
Yes, I met with Ali right before our interviews, and we went over a couple of bills, and it went very well. There was an interesting thing that came up. I had noticed that there's just a lot of paper, like a lot of paper clipped together with each bill he showed me, and I'd asked, I thought they just did that for the bills we reviewed, but apparently that is literally for every entry that you see, that we see in our packet. There's like a stack of paper that goes with that entry. Well, it's great to have that backup, but Ali talked about how in his former district they really went paperless in this process, and you could, you know, kind of pull it all up electronically. So something maybe down the road for us to consider. It's a lot of paper.
Good point.
So, but it was great.
Okay. And so seeing, no more discussion on the consent, anything on the consent agenda? Okay. Seeing as there's no further discussion, roll call, please.
Ms. Lobby?
Aye.
Mr. Fishbane?
Aye.
Ms. Bick?
Aye.
Ms. Culver?
Aye.
Ms. Meyer?
Aye.
Ms. Orlovsky?
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, and we will now move to our second citizen comment period. We welcome your comments and questions and give them serious consideration pursuant to Board of Education Policy 2-230. Please identify yourself, and if applicable, state the agenda item to which your comment is directed. Please limit the length of all comments to no more than 3 minutes per comment period, and we will do our best to address your questions and follow up with you and report back, as well as report back at the next board meeting for these post-agenda citizens' comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? No? Okay. Do we have any future agenda items that anybody would like to propose?
Gee, I'm so happy you asked. No, actually, there was a lengthy list, but I will bring it back to one, which, because I think a lot of them will end up being part of the workshops, and we'll see when we come there. The one which may or may not become part of superintendent search, but I've just put it out there again, which is the superintendent evaluation process, and trying to do what we think is best practices, and I think having a discussion to try to have something in place prior to a new superintendent so that it does not seem like any process is a result of the performance we're currently seeing, but just that a best practice. So again, it could be part of the superintendent search, it could be something separate, but I feel like it is something we should discuss.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, agreed. And it was interesting for me to learn that actually the search firms will actually assist with that process for additional fees, but they will, once a candidate is selected, they will actually help us with that process and the reviews and the goals. So I think that is something that we would think about
You
then.
can also, though, get information about that through ISB, through, well, in our case now it'd be D. Molinari. I mean, all of that information we already pay for, so we don't necessarily need the search. I mean, they could certainly give us input, but we do have, we did sort of a quasi attempt last year, and so there are definitely resources out there.
Great. Well, so we will make sure to get that on a future agenda item, since everybody seems to be in agreement.
Probably wait a couple months though, right? Or do you-
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
I think
It
so.
doesn't matter, it just, it's
No big rush.
putting it on the radar, right, but it could be, right, months from now.
It's not
Yeah.
your evaluation back.
Okay. If that's the only future agenda item,
For now.
is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes, and our next meeting is October 15th, 6 PM, right here.